We are live. Jason, it's good to see you today. How you doing?
You too, Charlene. Doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I've been looking forward to this talk actually, because this one's going to be pretty fun.
Yes. Yes, so have I. We had to put it off a couple times due to conflicting schedules, but we're back.
Yep. Well, you know what the good thing about this now is I think we've got this whole live thing down to a science where we've been able to schedule ahead of time and do things like coordinate. Who knew?
Yeah, exactly.
Should be a lot easier this time. All right. Well, how about we dive in today? Well, before we did that, because you had a great write-up on this, actually, that I'm going to pull up. And what I really would like to start with is the hardest question first. I want to dive into mandatory minimum wage to start, and then we get to automation and AI. And the reason for that is it's such a hot topic right now. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yes. So
Okay.
I'm not a believer in the quote unquote minimum wage. I think it puts a floor on labor per se. And it gives people a goal that, in my opinion, isn't a great goal. People should aspire to more than $7.25 or whatever the minimum wage is, or $15 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is. And yes, I get that's a start for many people. I get that. And I had actually, I don't remember if it was minimum wage, but my first job I was making like $8 an hour. So I get it why people would want that, but I don't necessarily agree with it, because people should aspire to more, in my opinion, especially if you live in a big city. $15 an hour, which people are pushing for now, that's not going to make you enough money to live in Miami or New York City or most parts of California or Chicago. That's not going to be enough in their wording for those locations anyways.
All right. Well, that makes sense. So now on that one, we're talking about people should or could. Now, I will tell you that I actually agree with you. I also feel like people should aspire to more. But what I feel like people should do and what they actually do are not always the same thing. But so with that in mind, where do you think it comes from then, where people are talking about policy for actually making a mandatory minimum wage an imposition, a requirement for businesses to do across the board? I mean, where is that coming from?
So here's where I get a little bit more into my wheelhouse, the business side of things, business owner, the number side of things. This is where more in my wheelhouse. From a business's perspective, I'll start there. It doesn't make sense for most businesses. How doesn't it make sense? Aren't these companies making billions of dollars?
Right. Can't they just give it back to their employees? Don't they have a moral obligation to give people a living wage? Jason, come on.
So most of them are not making billions of dollars. Most of them are not making hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, you see the companies, especially I saw the other day, people talking about, what was it? The example was, let's close the big box grocery stores like Aldi and Walmart, so the quote unquote small businesses can make money because of lockdowns. I think the example was in Australia. They're doing more lockdowns for COVID stuff over there.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That makes sense until you've actually analyzed thousands, tens of thousands of companies like I have. Most companies, when I say most companies, I mean 95% plus of companies on earth, public companies that I've researched, this goes for private companies as well, do not consistently make more than 5% profit margins.
Really? 5%?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
When you're seeing these companies with huge profits like Apple, they make $60 billion in free cash flow a year. They are the extreme example on the other side of what some call corporate greed, because they're not doing enough to pay their employees, blah, 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 whatever. Right. That is the extreme example. Most companies on earth do not make greater than 5% profit margins on a consistent basis. When I say that, I mean over 5-10 years periods. So what does that mean? To get back to your other question, most companies do not make a ton of money.
Right. Okay.
They
All
put it back into their employees. Most businesses pay their employees, or most businesses, in the cost for their employees makes it between 50 and 70% of their entire expenses. That's why, like when COVID, you saw people cut employees first, because that's the
most
largest
expensive.
bulk of
Yeah.
their expenses. Is it
Yeah.
right or wrong? I'm not here to say that. I'm just saying what the facts are. It
Yeah.
depends on a company situation, what's right or wrong. But because of that, or Amazon, this is another thing with people with Amazon. They don't pay their employees enough. That may not be true. They have 100,000, 200,000 employees, something like that. May or not be true. I've never worked for Amazon personally. I don't know. But if they took that money and did pay their employees, let's say they paid all their employees at least $30 an hour. That's just because they make a lot of money, right?
Okay.
Then they couldn't reinvest into building Amazon that we all pretty much love and use every day. They
Okay.
couldn't invest in the infrastructure and stuff like that.